welcome to my channel where I document my process of moving to Peru. In this video, I will be discussing how exactly I'm going to transport me and my cats from Atlanta, Georgia to Peru. It is a long process. It was a difficult, expensive process, so there's a lot of different things I will be explaining in this video. So I will include some timestamps if you're interested in something specific that I'm going to be talking about. While I'm talking, I'm gonna be making some press-on nails. I want these nails to kind of like reflect or represent the experience that I had when I visited Peru. So it'll kind of tell like a little story as well. But it's a long video, so, or maybe it will be, I don't know yet because I just started it, but buckle up, get ready, because it's gonna be all over the place and long, sorry. So the first part I need to talk with you about is my initial expectations, my initial plan. There are, of course, I think I said this before, I planned on moving to Cusco. And moving to Cusco, it's a little bit more complicated with pets because of the altitude and the limited options for airlines. So I thought it would be something simple at first. You know, oh, just buy a ticket that is from Atlanta to Lima, then Lima to Cusco, just buy one ticket with one stop with Latin American Airlines, because I have flown with Latin American Airlines in the past and overall had no trouble, no awful experience until now. Get ready. But so I spoke with Latin American Airlines. I used a little bit of ChatGPT, and that is a huge mistake on my part. Do not do this because ChatGPT can get a lot of information wrong. Only use ChatGPT for like organizing and planning. Don't use it to get information about airlines. I would hope you would already know this, but I was not smart enough to know this already. So that's one thing. But I contacted the airlines, I paid for my ticket. I knew that one of my cats, oh man, this is so hard to discuss, but I guess I'll try my best and hope that you get what I'm saying. But you know I have two cats. And one of my cats is pretty small. But my other cat is very big. He's about almost 20 pounds. So unfortunately with Latin American Airlines, there are very strict rules for what size of an animal you can bring in the cabin with you. So I thought I would have to bring my smaller cat in the cabin with me and then put my larger cat in the cargo hold. Unfortunately though, after already purchasing my tickets, I learned that the flight from Atlanta to Lima is too long of a flight. And additionally, it's not possible to transport animals underneath the plane from Lima to Cusco because of how dangerous the altitude changes can be. And it can be very dangerous for animals. So unless your animal is small enough to be in the cabin with you, you have to find another way to get your cats from Lima to Cusco. I thought for a second about the idea of paying for a professional company to transport my larger cat. Because it was so cheap overall, or affordable, it wasn't cheap, but it was affordable to bring my smaller cat in the cabin with me. I thought, you know, for my larger cat, I would splurge. I would spend any amount of money, almost any amount of money, to get him from Atlanta to Cusco. And from what ChatGPT said, oh, maybe, you know, about within the $3,500, $4,000 range, which I fully accepted I would have to pay. Upon looking for more quotes though, I realized it would cost more. About, the quote that I got was about $6,500. That would have used almost all of the savings that I have. Not only that, what's even worse is I realized that the Latin American standards for having an animal in the cabin with you are so strict that not even my smaller cat, she's about 9 pounds, she is not small enough to travel in the cabin with me. So I realized I would have to pay to professionally transport both of them, each of them, which could cost up to $10,000, which I don't have. Just straight up don't have that, and I don't want to spend that much money just for something to possibly happen to them. For a second, I was kind of losing hope that I would be able to bring my cats with me. And when I started to lose hope, my reaction was so visceral, so crazy, that I realized, no, I have to find another way to bring them with me. They are not legally emotional support animals, but to me, I need them to have a will to live. So no option there, I'm bringing them. But unfortunately, just letting you know now, if you're trying to transport an animal that's any larger than like 8 pounds, they will probably be too big, unfortunately. Your animal has to be big enough to fully stand up in the soft carrier and turn around without touching the walls of the carrier. And even with my 9-pound cat, her body was like wall to wall. And she could turn, but she was touching the walls, she cannot fully stand up. Like, I found only one carrier that suited the size requirements of Latin American Airlines. I found a carrier on Chewy.com, and still, it was too small. There was no way my cat would be accepted into the cabin with me. So I came up with this ingenious idea. And the ingenious idea was that what if I change my flight from Atlanta to Lima to Cusco to just Miami to Lima. So that way I can transport both of my cats in the cargo hold with me. They're with me the entire time, and I don't have to worry about other people handling them, how they will react. They will always be with me. I won't have to spend over $10,000, and maybe I can even save a little money on my ticket if I change my airfare to have a shorter distance. So this is what I try to do. I call Latin American Airlines and I ask them, like, hey, can I change my flight from Atlanta to Cusco to Miami to Lima? And they told me to change my ticket. It would cost $500 just to change it. Additionally, I would have to pay for the pet fee for my smaller cat all over again for this ticket. Not only that, but I also paid for a ticket for my dad, because unfortunately you can only transport one animal at a time per passenger. So I needed someone else to come with me. So I also had to change my dad's ticket. So to change both of these tickets, it would have cost over $1,000, not even including the pet fees. When I already spent $1,500 for my dad's round trip ticket, and then almost $800 for my one-way ticket. So when they told me it would cost about $500 to change each ticket, immediately I said, no, I don't want to do that. So I hung up on them and I looked at plane tickets from Miami to Lima, and a ticket for me and my dad, a one-way ticket from Miami to Lima, both of us cost $500. Can you believe it? So that is the new plan. We fly from Miami to Lima, and then we find a way to get from Lima to Cusco. Now, the only concern at this point is really, how am I gonna get from Atlanta to Miami and then like driving as well from Lima to Cusco? Well, actually, the problem with Atlanta to Miami is not a problem at all, because fortunately, I have family in Florida, and I will be in Florida for Thanksgiving. So maybe I'll show a little video of me in Florida making my last plans. So I have that down. I have my transportation. I will be driving from Atlanta to Miami. Now, what about Lima to Cusco? Because unfortunately, there are no buses that were willing to, or private transportation that was under like $1,000, basically, to take my cats, me, and my dad from Lima to Cusco. So we decided that because we had such few options, we needed to basically get a rental car and physically drive ourselves and the cats from Lima to Cusco. But how are we going to do this? Because we don't know like the roads in Peru. We don't know the dangers of Peru. You know, there's information on the internet, but that information can be wrong a lot of the times, or it can change. Ah, shit! Sorry, that fell for a second. But yeah, so we decided it would not be a good idea to drive straight from Lima to Cusco, because that is over 24 hours of driving up mountainous, treacherous territory, you know, like especially in the mountains, it's the rainy season, there could be landslides and things like that. So we decided that we would have to stop in multiple places. And after a lot of research, we learned that the safest route we could possibly take is I think the Pan American Highway. So this highway goes all through the coast, and you can take it through Arequipa, and then you take another road up to Cusco. So many different things that we have to do. And hopefully, I hope to God you do not have to do those things as well. But if you have animals that are any bigger than mine, then you may have to do things in a very similar way that I did. You have to find a lot of loopholes and a lot of, what's the word? Unconventional ways of traveling, I suppose. But just as an example, this is my smallest cat. I don't know, I feel like she's not really that big. I don't know. She's chilling. Yeah, she's small, guys. She's small, okay? So, if your animal is any bigger than that, then good luck, bro. But, so, yes. The official plan, let me lay it out for you after this story time. The official plan is we drive from Atlanta to a city called Sarasota in Florida. This is where my family will be. I stay in Sarasota for about a week to let my cats adjust and see how they react to travel. And then we will go to Miami. And then we fly from Miami to Lima. And then we drive from Lima to a city that is about 8 hours away called Nazca. And then we drive to Arequipa the next day to have another rest. So we're resting in each of these cities. And then finally, on the 4th day, on December 7th, hopefully, we will arrive in Cusco. So very complicated, and there's a lot of preparing that needs to be done before this happens. And oh god, this is my bigger cat. So, oh my god, So it's really hard to transport animals that big. So I'd be wary of that. Look at the websites for each of the airlines, but unfortunately, if you're trying to get to Cusco, your options are much more limited. But if I knew of how Latin American airlines would be, how complicated it is, if I knew about how difficult it is to work with Latin American airlines, I would have chosen a different airline like Delta, which is something I've never had a negative experience with before. But unfortunately, it costs way too much money to change my ticket with Latin American Airlines. And not only that, I didn't even mention this, that when I tried to receive my refund, they were only going to offer me $300 for my $800 ticket, and then $130 for my $1,500 ticket. Yes, maybe this is my fault. Maybe I didn't read between the lines. So I accepted this, and I wanted to get just this money back. I waited, and after a few weeks, I called them, and they said, wait a few more days. It will arrive in your account by October 31st. 5 days later, nothing. So I called them again, just for them to tell me I will never receive my refund, and I took too long to ask for my refund. So I have a very sour taste in my mouth about Latin American Airlines, so I'm gonna put that information out there, and I hope that makes you second guess whether you should fly with Latin American airlines or not, because they have a lot of undisclosed, they don't disclose enough information to their clients. And I think that is very unprofessional of them. But anyway, that was my story, my thought process, how I decided to choose this travel route, how I came to this decision, and now, how am I going to prepare my cats for this trip? Because if you have pets, unfortunately, you are going to have to spend a lot of time beforehand preparing. So what do we have to prepare for? There's paperwork, but there's also a lot of training that needs to be done with the cats. Okay, sorry, I was getting so sidetracked I didn't even paint nails for a second, so I stopped what I was doing to paint the base color of the nails. So here are the base colors. You see that now? Gonna be frank, I'm definitely not gonna be done with the nails by the time I'm done talking, but you'll see the results at the end of the video for sure. So what am I doing now to prepare for my cat's transportation? Well, first of all, there are many different documents that you need to be able to bring your animals, your pets, to any country, and each country has its own requirements, so make sure you check their websites, their government websites, and make sure what their animal importation requirements are. The first thing I did before even arriving back home was looking up a USDA-accredited veterinarian. I think it's USDA, I hope. If it's not, I'll correct myself. But yes, the first thing you need to do is find a USDA-accredited veterinarian, and there are multiple websites that can help you get in contact with somebody like that, and I can also put a link in the description below if you are looking for that specific website in America. So immediately I found a vet. It's called My Pets Vet. It's in Atlanta, of course. It's in Kennesaw, Georgia, actually, and it is literally the best vet experience I've ever had. Oop, my camera died, but man, what was I talking about? This was the best vet experience I've ever had. I've been to multiple vets in the past, and no one has ever been so responsive. They pretty much never leave me on voice message. They always answer their phone during their hours. The vets are nice. They seem like they like their job. You're not waiting a long time. I don't even wait. I show up and immediately they walk me into an empty room where I can put my cats and let them out of their cage and everything. So taking my cats to vets regularly was very difficult for me, and I wasn't consistent with it. So with this vet, I had to schedule multiple vet visits to make sure that my cats were vaccinated and had all of the required, microchip, vaccination, paperwork, and things like that before they are ready to travel. Additionally, my cats are very anxious, so I also have to work with my vet to find a way to medicate my cats while we're traveling to make the trip a little easier on them. So I scheduled a total of 3 vet visits. The initial checkup, which was in the beginning of September, the actual vaccination, shots, microchip check, all of that was in the second visit. And then in the third and final visit, this will be the visit where they give us medication to test with the cats and receive the USDA accredited paperwork. So normally, apparently, when a vet is accredited, they will pretty much take care of a majority of the process for you. But of course, as a pet owner, it is always your responsibility to make sure that they did everything right, you have all your ducks in a row, and you have copies of all of the paperwork. Make sure you make copies, at least 3 copies, in addition to the original document that you have, just to be sure that if you lose it or one checkpoint takes your documents, you have more. In addition to paperwork and working with a vet, you have to train your animals for travel. You can't just shove them in a crate and hope for the best. You need to make sure that your animals are prepared, mentally prepared for this journey, because it can traumatize them. It's a very traumatic process for them. And it can be for you if they are not trained properly. So I think it's really important, if you have a cat or a dog, you need to harness train, especially cats. Like dogs, I'm sure your dog is already accustomed to a harness and wearing a collar if you have a dog. But when it comes to cats, you need to train your cat how to wear a harness and be comfortable wearing a harness for hours. Because, eventually, especially during this trip anyway, my cats will be in a carrier for up to maybe 10 to 16 hours. It just depends on the delays that may happen, the delays at the SENASA inspection, because also your animal will be inspected upon arriving in the Lima's airport by SENASA, and you have to pay a small fee of, I think, 100 soles, 140 soles, I'm just guessing right now, which is about $20, 20 US dollars. $20 to $50 is what I would expect to set aside for this inspection. So I'm telling you now, do not just skip training your animals just because you have anxiety medication for them or anything like that. There will be moments where you cannot give them anxiety medication, or they may not accept anxiety medication, or your trip takes way longer than you were expecting and the anxiety medication wears off and your animals may start to panic. So make sure to set time every day to train your cats or your dog or whatever. So what do I do every day to train my incredibly anxious cats? Well, I started off very slow, just with the harness, about twice a day, 10 minutes each time. So I would never have my cats in a harness for more than 10 minutes at a time because they're not even used to wearing a collar. Just wearing anything at all would be very uncomfortable for them. Once they start moving around more naturally and they're able to play, you can increase it to about 30 minutes twice a day. And I always make them wear their harness while they're eating dinner. And also, they always ate inside the crates that they are going to be transported in. This way, they associate the harness and the crate that they will be in with something that is positive, like eating. I did not close them in the crate at first. For a while, for a few weeks, I kind of just kept the crate open so they developed a trust with the crate. Then, a few days later, I started to quickly increase. I started to close the door whenever they ate. So they know that sometimes the door will be closed while they eat. Right now, I'm at the stage where I keep the door closed even after they're done eating, and I will make sure the door remains closed for at least 30 minutes. But twice a day. But eventually I want to increase this to more than an hour twice a day, once in the morning and once at night whenever they eat. So now they're at a point where they can play in the harness, they sleep in the harness, they can groom themselves in the harness, they don't complain, and they act like how they normally do. Compared to when I first put the harness on them, they were crying and complaining. I guess a few more things I would strongly encourage fellow pet owners do is put an AirTag on your cat's harness and the cat's carrier in case anything happens and they get lost. Additionally, I think if your cat is an indoor pet and they're not really used to being outside, take time to slowly introduce them to the outside. There may be emergency moments where your animal may have to leave the cage, so they need to be okay with somewhat loud, chaotic environments. But yes, overall, that is all of the things that I'm thinking about right now off the top of my head. The travel implications, all of the different things I had to change and rearrange, and by the end of it, just with the mistake I made and then having to fix my mistake, it ended up costing me about, if I had to guess, maybe, we'll say over about $2,300, $2,500 with the pet fees and the airline fees and the hotels for each stop that I have to make. I will say I'm leaving out a lot of expenses because many places that I'm staying with other people. You know, in Florida, I'll be staying with somebody. In Cusco, I'll be staying with somebody. I'll be finding an apartment. Of course, in a future video, once I arrive in Cusco, I can give you a full report of how much this actually cost me. But so far, it's about $2,500. A lot of people in my life really did not like that I was planning on doing this with my cats. I was told that transporting my cats in this way, in any way, just transporting my cats on a plane is cruel and dangerous. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. But yes, I was told by a lot of people in my life that putting my cats through this trip is cruel. And I had to do a lot of thinking about what is more cruel, what is more selfish, because I think no matter what I do, it is selfish and it is partially, I wouldn't say cruel because I'm trying my best to make sure my cats feel comfortable during this trip, but I can understand why other people would think that because especially going underneath a plane can be very dangerous. But I did the research and the likeliness that something happens to a cat or an animal underneath the cargo hold is like just as likely as the plane actually crashing, like the whole plane crashing. So I think I'll be fine, unless the plane crashes. But, you know, it should be fine overall. So I had to decide between what is more traumatic, what would be more difficult for my cats and I. Finding a new home for my cats and putting them in a place where they don't know the people, they have to become accustomed to a whole new routine, new smells, new people, new everything. And also they may end up developing separation anxiety or attachment issues. Or I could put them through this one trip and we stay where we are for probably the rest of their lives. My cats are not particularly young, so I do believe that I would never leave Peru or Latin America in general within their lifetime, so they would never have to fly in a plane again. But why am I doing this? It's so expensive, it's so time consuming, there's so many risks, it's so cruel, it's so selfish. Why are you doing this? I'll tell you, I have trauma. A little personal story, because I'm done telling you how I'm doing this, the documentation you need. So if you're just here for that, you can go now. But why am I so desperate to bring my cats with me? For a second, I want to tell you a little personal story so you understand why this is not negotiable for me personally. So, I had a cat. My first cat ever. I was 16 years old. And I adopted him when he was a kitten, and I had him for about 8 years. Last year, my cat started to act really weird. He wasn't as affectionate as he used to be. He was affectionate unlike any cat I've ever met. He always came when I called for his name. He followed me from room to room. He would always let me hold him. It didn't matter for how long. I could hold him like a baby and he would never try to escape from me. He was definitely unlike the traditional cat that kind of likes to do their own thing and is very independent. But one day though, he started to act really weird. He didn't want to be held anymore. He was just very uncomfortable. He started to lose a lot of weight, he didn't want to eat as much anymore. And his breathing became really weird. He would pant, his breathing was very rapid all the time. And I hate to admit it, but I ignored the problem, not because I didn't care, but because I hoped that the problem would go away and that he just was a little sick. But eventually, one day, it was undeniable. His pain, his discomfort, and I had a dinner with my mom that day and I canceled the dinner and I took him to the vet. I thought this would be a short thing. I thought I would be able to still go out for dinner with my mom later that day. So I took him to the vet. I asked ChatGPT, like, what do you think is wrong with my cat? My cat is doing this, 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 and this. And they said, oh, you know, he probably has heartworm or something like that. PSA, don't use ChatGPT too much, bro. Don't, stop, don't do it. Just think for yourself. Use Google or something, I don't know. But they said, oh, he probably has heartworm and he'll be fine with like some medication. So that's what I expected to be told at the vet. So I went to the vet, and after looking at him, they told me, your cat has congestive heart failure. And there's a surgery to fix his heart, but it's just a temporary fix. And the problem will come back. I asked them like if I did anything wrong. Is there anything that I did, or is there anything I could have done differently to prevent this? And they said no, he was born with a heart defect, and it didn't really show until now. So they said I could pay for the surgery. The surgery would be about $1,500, but I don't have that money. I didn't have that money at the time. And, you know, you could pay for that surgery and then he could die of heart failure a week later. So it's just to save an animal that's destined to die, pretty much. So I had to put him down, and it was the hardest thing that ever happened to me. I think what made it even more difficult, though, was to see my older cat's reaction. Coda, my orange cat, they were bonded. So I think it was incredibly difficult to witness his death, but at the same time, it made it almost impossible to move on, because every day I was seeing my orange cat. He was crying, he was following me. My orange cat didn't care about me. So this behavioral change, once my black cat, Gigi, once he was gone, I could not take it. So I instead went to I went to the adoption center and adopted another cat like 2 weeks later. I hate to say it. I impulse adopted another cat, who is Momo, the white cat, smaller cat. And yeah, sometimes I feel like my white cat is like a reincarnation of my old cat, my black cat, because they kind of have like the similar, you know, don't fuck with me eyes, and they're very sassy and smart, like very smart, and like, yeah, she reminds me of Gigi. So I was actually really happy with this. But of course I went to Peru. I fell in love with Peru, and even now I miss Peru, and I'm so excited to come back. So yes, this backstory is kind of what has caused this development of like desperation, just like willing to do anything to bring my cats with me. So I don't really expect anybody to fully understand like my feelings about this, and I expect people will disagree with what I'm doing, but I've done everything that I can, and I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. So, I mean, that's all I can think of saying for right now. I talked about my process for choosing the official route for my trip to Cusco. I told you about the different documentation you need, how to train your animals, and I told you a little personal story that I hope wasn't too personal, but whatever, it's my channel anyway, so you can leave it anytime if you don't like it. Now, all that's left to do is finish these nails. I knew I wouldn't have it finished by the end of me talking, but I will get working on these. All right, I'm gonna lock in and focus on this, and then I'll show you what I came up with and the story behind each nail. All right, and let me disclose, in case I didn't already, I'm not an artist, okay? So if you don't like the results of these nails, I'm sorry, because like, this isn't a art channel. This is I don't know what kind of channel this is yet, but like, this isn't an art channel, so don't be mad at me if it looks like shit. All right, now let's look at what I came up with.
72 hours later.
All right, 3 days later, and I'm finally done with the nails. Let me show you what I came up with. Okay, changing my camera because it is literally impossible to record these tiny little items with my camera. Like, my camera just won't focus on them. So using my phone instead. So starting with the first thing that I made, which was, well, my intention was the Peruvian flag, but I think I made the Austrian flag on accident. So we're just gonna flip that. Boom. Peruvian flag now. And then the next one I made actually based off of a picture that I took when I was hiking Machu Picchu. So this flower that I took a picture of, it's called excuse my pronunciation, but the Wiñayuena orchid, which in Quechua I think means forever young. So I took a picture of that and I painted that. The next one I did was of my old cat, Gigi, that I mentioned before. And then because this one was so difficult, I just painted like basic flowers. There is no name for these flowers. I was just like, you know, fuck it. Let's just do any flower. So that's that. Of course, I wanted to paint like little villages with like the little patterns that I saw like on, you know, blankets and stuff like that when I was shopping. And then of course we have like rolling hills, you know, mountains. And then the next one I did was of the starry night sky. I don't know how to draw or paint moons. I've always been terrible at this, but I painted this because in Cusco, there is not nearly as much light pollution as there is in America. So you can see the stars really well, and it's incredibly beautiful. And then the next one I did was of Momo. Damn, why do I keep on? And then the next one I did was of Little Coda. And then I did another like little town. I tried to do a little pattern here, but I didn't have enough room, so it kind of looks like shit. And then this one's my favorite. I don't know. Momo just turned out looking so cute to me. But yeah, these are my nails that kind of like represent my experience in Peru. So yeah. So you saw the nails that I created. It wasn't while I was talking. I've realized now that basically every time I say, oh, I'm going to do this while I'm talking, that's a lie. I'm going to talk first and then make the thing, then show you after. But hey, you got the final product. I hope you liked it. Please let me know, what was your favorite nail? If you had one. If you hated it, that's okay too. And now, if you feel like I forgot to mention anything in this video, or you have any questions about any additional plans I have for this trip, concerns, or you need general advice, leave them in the comment section below, I guess. But for the most part, I mean, I said all I needed to say. I can't think of anything else to say now. So until next time, in the next video, it will probably be about what I am officially going to be packing for Peru. And this will be my last video before my official move to Peru. So until the next video, see ya!